Why did the 1956 Suez Crisis signal the end of the British Empire? The answer is straightforward. Incentives. On July 26, 1956, Egyptian President Nasser declared the nationalization of the Suez Canal. The Anglo-French Canal Company had annual revenues of roughly $100 million. Two-thirds of Western Europe's oil supply depended on it, and it was the world's most critical maritime choke point. Nasser seized it overnight. Why was that decisive? This slide explains everything. Britain and France attempted to retake it by force. The scheme: let Israel strike first, then intervene as supposed mediators. Militarily, it worked. Egyptian forces were overwhelmed in 7 days. But America objected. The Soviet Union objected as well. At the height of the Cold War, East and West formed a rare united front. Eisenhower signaled economic sanctions against Britain. Speculative selling hammered the British pound, and foreign reserves evaporated rapidly. Within 12 weeks, Britain was forced to withdraw. This is what 7 decades of imperial history research has established. This is not speculation. It is a data-confirmed moment of power transfer. And it is comprehensible. The numbers make it clear. Follow the structure of incentives, and it becomes clear. This is how you understand why empires end. Today, the data lays it bare. Gamal Abdel Nasser was no accidental politician. He was calculating. July 26, 1956, a speech in Alexandria. For 3 hours, Nasser stoked fury against Britain and France. Then, with a single sentence, he declared the nationalization of the Suez Canal Company. The Suez Canal Company was built in 1869 by Frenchman Ferdinand de Lesseps. For 87 years since, Anglo-French capital had controlled it, extracting profit from ships crossing Egyptian territory. Annual revenues ran to roughly $100 million. The bulk of that flowed to Europe as operating costs and dividends. What remained for Egypt was a fraction. Nasser's calculation was clear-eyed. The United States had just blocked World Bank financing for the Aswan High Dam, citing Egypt's alignment with the communist bloc. His conclusion: build the dam with canal revenues instead. The declaration that the Suez Canal belongs to Egyptians reverberated across the Arab world. In Baghdad, Cairo, Damascus, people poured into the streets and cheered. It was the first serious challenge to the colonial order. Britain and France reacted immediately. This is unacceptable. Military solutions were on the table. There is a calculated deception at the heart of this story. October 22 to 24, 1956. Representatives of Britain, France, and Israel convened a secret meeting in Sèvres, outside Paris. The British government officially denied the existence of this Protocol of Sèvres for decades. Its details were only confirmed as declassified public records from the 1980s onward. The scenario went like this. First, Israel invades the Sinai Peninsula. Britain and France, as neutral mediators, issue a 48-hour ultimatum demanding a ceasefire from both sides. Egypt inevitably refuses. Britain and France intervene reluctantly. On October 29th, Israeli forces invaded the Sinai. The Anglo-French ultimatum was delivered. Nasser refused. Britain and France began their air campaign. Militarily, the operation succeeded. Israeli forces overran the Sinai in 7 days. Anglo-French paratroopers landed at Port Said and seized most of the canal zone. But the world had already seen through the deception, and the most consequential man in the world was furious. Dwight D. Eisenhower, President of the United States. 1956 was an American presidential election year. Eisenhower never lost sight of that fact. His anger was not moral. It was strategic. First, allies had launched a war without consulting him. NATO cohesion was undermined at its foundation. Second, the invasion handed Soviet propaganda a perfect weapon. The West would be branded guardians of colonialism. Eisenhower called British Prime Minister Anthony Eden. "Stop, now." Eden replied, "I cannot." The United States voted in favor of a UN resolution condemning Britain and France. It was the first time in Cold War history. The Soviet Union acted as well. Premier Bulgan sent letters to Britain, France, and Israel. We are prepared to use nuclear missiles. It was a threat, but it was effective. Then, economics cornered Britain. Speculative selling drove the pound down, and foreign reserves drained rapidly. Britain sought emergency IMF financing. America attached a condition: withdraw first. The structure of incentives had been completely reversed. Why does a country that won militarily retreat? The numbers provide the answer. In 1956, Britain's foreign reserves stood at roughly $2.3 billion. Over 12 weeks from October to December, roughly $330 million vanished. Approximately 15% of total reserves gone in 3 months. Oil compounded the problem. At the time, roughly 2/3 of Western Europe's oil consumption passed through the Suez Canal. When Nasser blocked the canal, the primary supply route for European crude was severed. Britain was forced to source oil via far longer alternative routes. The IMF financing request. America's Treasury Secretary made it plain. Accept the UN ceasefire and withdrawal resolution, and the loan is approved. Britain had no options left. On November 6th, Britain accepted the ceasefire. On December 22nd, the last Anglo-French troops departed Egypt. Prime Minister Eden resigned the following January, citing health reasons. What this withdrawal signified comes down to one thing. Britain had become a country that could no longer conduct large-scale military operations without American permission. The empire was over. The world map before and after Suez is not the same. Not metaphorically. The map literally changed. With Indian and Pakistani independence in 1947, Britain had already lost most of its colonial population. Yet in 1956, Britain still held roughly 80 million people under colonial rule across Africa, the Middle East, and the Caribbean. An island smaller than Japan still planted its flag across the globe. The year after Suez, 1957, the Gold Coast, modern-day Ghana, declared independence. It was the first independence in sub-Saharan Africa. What followed was the pace that matters. 1960, Nigerian independence. 1961, Tanganyikan independence. 1962, Ugandan independence. 1963, Kenyan independence. In this brief span, British colonies vanished in rapid succession. The economic indicators shifted as well. Britain's defense spending, which had exceeded 10% of GDP in the 1950s, plummeted to below 5% by the 1970s. Britain could no longer afford the cost of empire. Prime Minister Macmillan said it in 1960. The wind of change is blowing through Africa. That was not a prediction. It was a belated recognition of what was already underway. Suez had pulled the trigger. Nasser lost the war. But he won politically. Egyptian forces were defeated by Israel in the Sinai. The Canal Zone was temporarily occupied. Militarily, it was a comprehensive defeat. Yet on December 22nd, Britain and France withdrew. The Suez Canal returned to Egyptian hands. Financing for the Aswan High Dam was secured. The streets of Cairo erupted. The entire Arab world erupted. A single Arab man had driven out the great European colonial powers. Nasser's impact did not stop at Egypt's borders. In 1958, Egypt and Syria merged to form the United Arab Republic. Nasser became its leader. In Iraq, the pro-British monarchy was overthrown. In Libya, in Yemen, nationalist military coups followed in succession. Western colonial domination can be ended. Suez was the proof. And the diplomatic architecture of the Middle East was transformed. Not Britain and France, but the United States and the Soviet Union became the primary players in the Middle East. It was the moment the Cold War fully penetrated the region. Geopolitical vacuums are always filled. Now, let's bring today's analysis into focus. Here's what today established. First, the collapse of imperial order. Britain lost roughly 15% of its foreign reserves in 12 weeks and buckled before American IMF financing contingent on withdrawal. Having won militarily yet forced to retreat by economic pressure, Britain became, from that day forward, a country incapable of large-scale military action without American authorization. The role of world's policeman ended on December 22, 1956. Second, the structural victory of Arab nationalism. Nasser reclaimed the Suez Canal and drove out Britain and France. The fact that he emerged as the political victor, despite military defeat, set the entire Arab world in motion. Beginning with Ghanaian independence in 1957, British colonies disappeared in rapid succession. It was a chain reaction Suez had set off. Third, the establishment of a U.S.-Soviet bipolar structure in the Middle East. With the old imperial powers, Britain and France, removed from the stage, the United States and the Soviet Union became the Middle East's primary players. The Cold War central theater shifted from Europe to the Middle East, and this structure has remained the foundation of Middle Eastern diplomacy to this day. And that structure is still alive, 70 years on. From late 2023 into 2024, Houthi attacks in the Red Sea drove Suez Canal traffic down by roughly 40 to 50%. Egypt's economy again faced a dollar shortage from collapsing canal revenues, forcing an expansion of IMF support. If Nasser used the canal as a weapon in 1956, today's Egypt is held hostage to the canal by external forces. The vulnerability of choke points has not changed in 70 years. Had Britain refused to withdraw at Suez, how would Middle Eastern history have unfolded differently? And will the Suez Canal, this geopolitical choke point, continue to shake the world in the years ahead? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for watching. Why do empires end? Not from military defeat. It begins with economic reality and the reversal of incentives. This channel analyzes the structural mechanisms behind the world through three lenses: geopolitics, economics, and history. Subscribe, and every episode delivers the real reason behind the surface-level news. Turn on notifications, and let's decode the world together. Until next time.